This is going to be kind of a weird thing to say out loud, but I think the idea of millionaire habits are sort of sexy. And I'm guessing just by the sheer number of videos that have already been done on this very topic, many of which I have personally watched over the years, that I'm not alone in thinking this. In fact, if I had to guess, the question I get asked the most is something along the lines of, what's your morning routine, or what's been the most important habit you've developed that's led to your success? And I think the reason millionaire habits in particular is such a fascinating concept for so many people is because we all instinctively know that Will Durant had it right when he said that we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. Which means that if we could just plug in the right habits and routines, then bam, millionaire status is just a matter of time and repetition. Now, habits have played a particularly important role in my life, not just in my pursuit of becoming a millionaire, but maybe more importantly, in just turning things around when I had all but imploded my life thanks to ADHD, a string of bad decisions, and a host of even worse habits. So the turning point in my life really did pivot around not only introducing better habits, but unlocking how to actually make those habits stick. Now, there are a ton of great resources out there on how exactly to introduce new habits into your life and make them last. A couple off the top of the head are Atomic Habits by James Clear and The Power of Habits by Charles Duhigg. So I'm not going to touch that topic today, but what we are going to reveal in this video is the truth behind which habits actually matter on the path to becoming a millionaire. Because here's the thing, I've probably tried every single millionaire habit that's ever been suggested. Seriously, whether it's waking up at 5 a.m., cold showers, affirmations, gratitude journaling, networking, exercise, intermittent fasting, and just so many more. The truth is, I've probably tried them all. And you know what? Some of them were actually pretty damn effective. Others, not so much. But the thing that you got to realize about me is that at my core, I'm pretty lazy, which is why I named my publishing company One Lazy Robot. I don't want to work any harder than strictly necessary. And one of the things I started to notice was that I was spending more time just executing habits that were maybe good for me in some way, but they weren't really moving me towards my goals at the speed that I wanted. And so somewhere along the way, I just went back to the drawing board. I reevaluated everything I was doing to figure out, all right, what habits actually matter the most? Like, which habits are having the biggest impact or giving me the most leverage? The goal was to take a page out of Marcus Aurelius's book, Meditations, in which he said something that I've always tried to keep at the forefront of my mind. And that is, if you seek tranquility, do less. Not nothing, but only what's essential, which brings a double satisfaction. To do less, better. And so I started paring down the excess in my life to get to the core activities that truly mattered. And I came to realize that success, money as an extension, really only required that I do 3 things consistently. I call these habits or activities my 3 to free, which are so important that I actually talk about them in another video where I share the exact blueprint of my productivity system that I've used to make my first $1 million in 3 years. And a link for that will probably show up in the description down below. So go check that out. But before you do, let's unpack the only 3 habits you need in order to make $1 million. I call them my 3 to free: learn, think, do. So let's dive in. The first millionaire habit is learning. Listen, I talk about this all the time, so I get it if I sound like a broken record, but that's because this is the fundamental truth that most people refuse to accept. You, as a human, are the ultimate learning machine. There's practically nothing in this world that you can't learn and improve at with enough concerted, focused, and intentional effort. And this is important because becoming a millionaire is less about the money and more about who you are as a person in the process. The skills, the traits, the knowledge, the experience that you acquire while you're making that $1 million is far more important than the money itself. And the reason is because those skills can't be taken from you, barring existential disaster, which means that if you somehow lose all your money, you still have your skills, so you have the ability to go back and earn that money again. So the first habit you have to build into your day, and I recommend this being the very first thing you do with your morning, is learning time. Now, there are a ton of ways to learn, and each of us are a bit different, so you're gonna have to figure this out on your own. But just off the top of my head, you got YouTube videos like this, podcasts, you got courses, which I know get a bad rap, but truly, I'm working through a half dozen courses at any given moment, and they've been great for me. Personally, though, of all the ways that you can learn, I believe the most bang for your buck comes when you read, specifically books. Now, I know a lot of you out there hate reading, and I get it. It's hard, it's cumbersome, it's slow and boring and time consuming, and maybe you even suck at it, so you'll read a page and then instantly forget what you just read. But here's the thing. Nobody ever said learning was going to be easy. That's why most people don't do it and why most people aren't millionaires. You're obviously different because you're here, you're watching this video. So here's my recommendation. Dedicate 1 hour every day to learning something new. Truthfully, in the beginning, it doesn't even really matter what you're learning. And the reason is you're cultivating a trait, which I believe to be one of the greatest predictors of success in a person's life. See, over the years, I've hired dozens and dozens and dozens of people to work alongside me, and I'm always looking for those rockstar A players who absolutely dominate at what they do. In the beginning, I used to look for things like intelligence or charisma or how hardworking they were, but over time I came to realize that the people who continually rose to the top of my companies all possessed one unmistakable skill. They all had an insatiable curiosity. They were the ones that were always digging to understand the why and the how of a thing. And as a consequence of that curiosity, they became wickedly competent people and made a ton of money as a result. See, I believe that curiosity is a trait that can be improved. And just like anything else, the way you improve the thing is by doing that thing more. Repetition generally, though not always, leads to improvement, which is why learning is so valuable, because learning and curiosity go hand in hand. Often, the more you learn about a thing, the more interesting it becomes because you start to see all the facets of it that a novice just completely misses. In turn, this sparks an even deeper curiosity, which makes it so you're genuinely excited to continue learning more. It's a virtuous cycle, and that's why learning is the first habit to develop on your path to becoming a millionaire. The second habit is thinking. Here's an unfortunate truth, and it may or may not surprise you, but most people aren't very good thinkers, and there's a couple reasons for this. On the one hand, I don't believe the modern education system does a good job of teaching people critical thinking skills. See, being a good student often means mastering memorization and resuscitation. It's just cramming facts into your brain about what year the Magna Carta was signed or what's the capital of New Mexico, and then having the ability to regurgitate that information on a timed test. This is what's called convergent thinking. That is, there's a single right answer that you will eventually discover if you follow the XYZ steps of doing the algebra problem in just the right way. But here's the problem. Life doesn't work like that. And when it does, you have a computer in your pocket that you can get the answer to way faster than any human ever could. So the meaningful problems that you're going to be paid to solve in life are the result of divergent thinking, which means there isn't necessarily a right or wrong answer, just answers that have different probabilities of success or failure given an unknowable number of variables. So what matters here then is the quality of the judgment you apply to the solving problems in the moment. And your judgment is ultimately a result of the clarity of your thoughts, which brings us back to why thinking is our second millionaire habit. Now, if you know yourself and you know you don't know how to think, then you discovered the very first thing you need to dedicate your learning time to. But again, in my experience, one of the best ways to improve at a thing is to do that thing a whole bunch. So the more you can practice thinking, the more likely you are to improve at it. Now, I found a ton of value in 3 thinking time practices in particular. First is meditation, which for me is just quiet time with my thoughts. Second is creating content just like this. You know, these videos don't just spontaneously happen. They're the result of a lot of time and energy, and yes, thinking about what I want to say and how I want to say it. Often through that creation process, I discover I don't really understand the thing I'm talking about as well as I thought I originally did, which gives me homework for my learning time. The third practice that helped me become a better thinker, and is probably the most important one, is writing or journaling. Again, just like reading, I understand a lot of people have issues with writing. It's hard, it's slow, and you probably feel like you don't really have anything worth saying of value. But in my experience, writing is the most powerful form of thinking any of us has access to. That might seem like an outrageous statement, but I do believe it to be true. See, writing is the physical manifestation of thoughts through the laborious process of one letter being forced through your fingertips or pen tip at a time. And I don't know about you, but one of the reasons I've always struggled with my ADHD is it feels like I have a chaotic jumble of thoughts just twirling through my head at any moment. Organizing those thoughts, much less holding on to them for a fleeting moment, is incredibly difficult. But when I take the time and I force myself to write about what I'm thinking, when I force the thoughts to comply with my will, I finally discover what I truly think on a topic, and more importantly, why I think it. This is important in a very pragmatic way, because the more clearly you understand your thoughts, the more clearly you're going to be able to communicate those thoughts to the world in an impactful and influential way. And this is a critical skill you gotta develop in becoming a millionaire, which is why to develop the habit of thinking, I recommend starting a journal and just writing for 30 minutes every single day. It doesn't even matter how good it is, just make sure you do it. Finally, the last habit that served me incredibly well in becoming a millionaire is the habit of doing. The truth of the matter is that it does not matter how much you know or how great your judgment is if you never apply it. So if we fail to implement this third and final habit of doing, we'll have nothing to show for all the time we've spent learning and thinking. And I know this seems so stupidly obvious, but in my experience at least, the thing that was often holding me back from making more money and getting to that millionaire status wasn't a lack of knowledge or ability. It was just that I didn't sit down and do the work. See, my life didn't start improving and I didn't get on the fast track to millionaire status until I made a habit every single day of spending at least 3 focused hours doing the work. Whether it's writing that book, creating a landing page, cold calling leads, or just whatever, make time every day to do the important work that needs doing. An interesting thing starts to happen when you make a habit of doing. You start to get traction, and traction eventually leads to momentum, and momentum in the game of building wealth is everything. See, an object in motion tends to stay in motion. So the more you do, the more you're able to do, and the easier it becomes to do the things that need to get done. Here are 2 concepts that really helped me ingrain this idea so it became a part of my daily actions on my path to becoming a millionaire. The first is to consume less, create more. All right, create more, consume less. At the heart of that simple sentence is everything you need to know about becoming wildly successful in life. But it's hard because consuming is a whole lot easier than creating. And our world is ever more designed for us just to sit back and passively consume, whether it's Netflix, TikTok, or even YouTube. Consuming content is so much easier than creating it. But it's in the creating and the doing that value is generated, not in the consumption. So audit your time and make sure you consume less and create more. The second concept that helped me ingrain the pattern of doing was this: always have a bias towards action. I think it was Naval Ravikant who said it best. Inspiration is perishable. To be honest, this might be one of those immutable truths of the universe. Listen, when you have an idea, a spark of inspiration, an ounce of motivation, or whatever, do not wait to take action. Start moving towards the goal immediately because progress begets progress. Remember, an object in motion tends to stay in motion. Once you're moving, it's so much easier just to keep moving. So don't stop. Just get going. Don't allow yourself to succumb to analysis paralysis, where you spend all your time spinning your wheels, thinking and planning and waiting for the right moment where the stars and moons just magically align and you finally feel ready. The truth is, you will probably never feel ready. All you're doing in the process is wasting precious time and becoming more deeply engraved in your rut of inaction. Because if an object in motion tends to stay in motion, then an object at rest tends to stay at rest. So bust off that rust, get your butt in motion, and establish a habit of doing. Now I get it. You might be looking at the 3 to free and thinking, it can't possibly be that simple. It can't just be a matter of spending time every day learning, thinking, and doing. But I assure you it is. I assure you it is in fact that simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy. In fact, consistently implementing these 3 habits might just be one of the most difficult things you ever do. But if you do, if you cultivate a daily habit of learning, thinking, and doing, then there's absolutely nothing in this world you can't achieve, even becoming a millionaire. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, you might be interested in checking out the newsletter that we put out each week. It's on finance, personal development, productivity, and a whole lot more. We put a ton of work into it, and I'm actually really proud of it. So go check that out. And also, if you enjoyed this video, then you might also enjoy this other video that we did recently about the productivity system that helped me become a millionaire. See, I struggle with ADHD, and I needed a system that would really help me get into the flow state and get the most out of my time in my day. So I actually think that video is super valuable. So go check it out. And that'll do it for me, guys. Cheers.